Speaker, I rise today in support of my amendment, which establishes a voluntary pilot apprenticeship program for students at Part 141 flight schools. Up front, I want to stress that this amendment has wide bipartisan support, and providing yet another option to bolster the pilot pipeline shouldn't be a partisan issue. Specifically, for the proposed apprenticeship program, up to 8 students enrolled at Part 141 flight schools would be eligible for a new apprenticeship program each academic year. To emphasize, this is a voluntary program, meaning flight schools can choose to participate. Members might ask, why establish an apprenticeship program at flight schools? There are several reasons. First, apprentices will receive an airline standard of training and will also be provided flexibility in pursuing career aviation opportunities. Second, the bill will incentivize individuals that have an interest in aviation to attend their local flight schools, which in turn will provide a greater opportunity to bolster the pilot pipeline and a certified flight instructor pipeline simultaneously. Third, this isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. The amendment provides flexibility to establish an apprenticeship program that fits the needs, curricula of the individual flight schools themselves. After all, a flight school in Southwest Florida may have completely different operations compared to a flight school in Alaska. Moreover, there are approximately 600 Part 141 flight schools in the United States today. However, only approximately 250 of these flight schools are active in any way. This amendment includes provisions to incentivize retired airline pilots and retired military pilots to give back, specifically by directing the Secretary of Transportation to develop methods to establish an expedited path that will allow retired pilots to become certified flight instructors. After all, the value of their decades' worth of experience speaks for itself. Mr. Speaker, what I will do at this point is I will reserve the balance of my time for anybody else who wishes to speak.
Gentleman reserves. For what purpose does the gentleman from Washington seek recognition?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to claim time in opposition to the amendment.
Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you.
For 5 minutes.
5 minutes, sir. I claim time in opposition, and this amendment, which would create an apprenticeship program for individuals seeking to become commercial pilots. Mr. Speaker, I do want to say we're very pleased to be able to support many of Representative Donalds' amendments to the bill, working in a bipartisan manner. This one, we just couldn't come to a place where we're comfortable. But certainly as a longtime supporter of aviation and STEM-related apprenticeships, I do appreciate the intent of Representative Donalds' amendment. It is duplicative, however, of several provisions in the underlying bill that already bolster the pilot pipeline. This authorization already triples the funding for FAA's Aviation Workforce Development Grant programs, which funds aviation apprenticeship programs. It creates the Willa Brown Aviation Education Program, which could fund apprenticeship programs focused on underrepresented communities, and creates a National Center for the Advancement of Aerospace, an independent, federally chartered nonprofit entity to administer grants to establish apprenticeships for aviation careers and serve as a centralized resource to provide comprehensive information on aviation apprenticeship opportunities. And we earlier adopted an amendment in the en bloc amendment that was sponsored by Representative Schreier and Gooden to help veterans transition into the commercial pilot world. Apprenticeships are already well covered in this underlying bill. I would oppose the gentleman's amendment, and I would also reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves. The gentleman from Florida is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I would yield 2 minutes, if I have 2 minutes, to the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Nels.
Thank you, Mr.
Speaker. Thank you. First, let me start by saying I commend Chairman Gray's Ranking Member Larson and Cohen on a very successful bipartisan FAA reauthorization of bill. I will say one of the issues that I feel very adamant about is addressing the pilot shortage, which is crippling air industry. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, it is projected that 14,500 pilots will be needed every year through the year 2030. Some other outlets have estimated the number to be even higher. And for this reason, I am proud to co-sponsor the Pre-Pilot Pathway Act by my friend Byron Donalds. This common sense amendment, common sense, folks, common sense amendment requires the Secretary of Transportation to establish a voluntary apprenticeship program at Part 141 flight schools around the country. More importantly, this program incentivizes retired pilots. those who are often the most experienced, the guys with the gray hair around the temples, to remain involved in the industry and train the next generation of pilots. I support the amendment, and I urge the adoption as one of the critical ways to support our pilots and alleviate the pilot shortage. I yield back.
Gentleman reserves.
Reserves.
Gentleman from Washington is recognized.
Thank you. We'll continue to reserve unless the gentleman from Florida has no more speakers, but we'll continue to reserve.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from Florida is recognized.
The gentleman's prepared to close.
Gentleman is recognized.
This is a great amendment with strong bipartisan support. I would ask the members to support this amendment, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields. Gentleman from Washington is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd ask my colleagues to oppose this amendment, and with that, I'll yield back the balance of my time.